Death Parade is a very interesting case of anime. What really stands out about it to me is its terrible ending. Not in terms of enjoyment or rating, but in narrative definition and tone. Literally, the definition of a story's resolution is the part of the story where the main problem is resolved or worked out. Normally this means the villain is defeated or the love interests finally pair up and things go back to normal. But what about when the villain is the normal? What about when at the end of the day nothing we saw actually mattered, when everything's the same? Or if you could even argue that things get worse. This just about describes Death Parade and is without a doubt a part of its now legendary status in the anime community. But how did they pull this off? Making an anime with the best, worst ending ever? Well, let's look deeper at its entire run and identify some of the critical elements that let this work. First, let's address Shiyuki's character. Or, well, lack of it. She's not so much an original character as an audience surrogate. Now, to define that, we're going to look at Ken from Tokyo Ghoul. I'm sorry if you haven't seen it, but I know that most of my subscribers are here from those Tokyo Ghoul videos. The story focuses on him being dragged into the depths of a cannibalistic world with all of its intricacies and dangers. Just as we have questions and reactions about this world, so does he. I wouldn't want to eat the hand of a man who just got his head kicked off the same way Ken resisted so vehemently. Or his anger as Nishio attacks Hide. Just as this underbelly of Tokyo surprises and shocks us, it does him as well. So what we're feeling is reinforced by what we're seeing from him. Plus, it creates a natural situation to introduce concepts and premises. Tsukiyama is well known to the other workers of Anteku, but not to us. So Ken is used not just to drive the story, but also create a realistic situation for us to learn about this new character, rather than having someone exposit his story to us. It's in line with show don't tell, although sometimes it can still get very telly. Now that we've seen a normal case, we can return to Shiyuki. Now we watch just as she does for most of the show, and in fact, this starts off very literally in episode 2 where she watches in the exact same way we did watching Deckham's first judgment that we see. The process is meant to be shocking and unnatural, and it comes off that way to us, and that's reinforced by watching it be this same thing to her as she's pretty much watching in horror. And then for a majority of the series, we're just watching her react to this cold process that Deckham has grown accustomed to. She despises the clicker that forces extreme situations as a cheat, sees the truth of Deckham's hobby as we do, tries to stop Shimada from falling for the extreme situation trap, those kind of moments. But why is this special if it's a common technique? Well, Death Parade omitted a standard detail: Shiyuki's entire backstory. In Tokyo Ghoul, we learn about the world of ghouls parallel to learning about Ken. Watching his nervousness around Rize, his interactions with Hide, his love for books, these things are all presented in between information about ghouls. Death Parade skips these sections and instead places them at the end. All we see of Shiyuki before episode 10 is an outfit in her closet, her slight remembrance of Chauveau, and her naturally human reactions. This means our connection to her isn't like it may be with others. Ken is a relatable character for many people due to his common character traits. A shy boy with a crush and a more outgoing friend, I mean, that's an easy situation to place yourself into, and you could try to draw parallels between your world turning upside down as his does with some situation. But with Shiyuki, you don't place yourself into it because you are it. If all she is a watcher viewing the elements unfolding before her and reacting, then we're exactly the same. We aren't connecting based on traits or story, but emotion and emotional response. It's a similar but distinct bond to other surrogate characters. This delay on backstory also helps the emotional pull in another way. Death Parade is actually very simple when it comes down to terms of plot and narrative structure. If we count the individual judgments as part of Deckham's growth, ignore Ginty's one judgment, and set Shiyuki's story aside since it's only prevalent for the last 3 episodes, we only really have 2 main plotlines to follow, and that's Deckham's growth and Nona's actions behind the scenes to inhibit this growth. So really you could say it almost only has 1.5 plotlines, given they're interconnected so much. This exhibits the episodic structure of the story and its look at individual stories around the main cast. Looking at it, we don't even learn much about anyone until episode 5 with Quinn's memory test. So this structure puts the focus not on its main characters, but something else. And with a revolving door of side characters nearly every episode, you couldn't say them either. It can only be truly on this growth in emotion. Quite geniusly, the shocking or standout moments for the main cast are almost entirely reserved for the final fourth of the anime, with just the conclusion-related episodes. They exist for the judgments as well, but it's about the extreme emotion. A man's unrelenting jealousy, pure and innocent love, or deep regret. In terms of plot, all these people do is set the stage for the finale by showing us the normalized and broken process that takes place and allowing us and Shiyuki to react. No matter how much you may want for things to end well, you can never think of Decim or Shiyuki's most important moments without remembering that terrible ending. So let's look at that ending then, when Shiyuki finally enters the actual frame of focus. Does this then start to detract from the emotional pull of the series at all? Well, no, not a bit. And that's because her story is pretty much as simple as it gets. In most cases, something of that caliber would be considered boring and uninteresting. Even in the context of Death Parade, look at what we've seen before. A jealous husband who killed his wife, plastic surgery for love, a TV star murdered by her assistant, and a dark web of two murderers out for revenge. And now we get a skater who got hurt? Even into the thick of it, in the most deep parts of her story, we only add one new character in her mother. The whole thing just lends itself to simple story and eye-catching scenes. This serves so as to not entirely break the depth of our emotional connection to her, and also maintain the focus on moments and response rather than just story, even when the story's finally there. It flows so well due to this, not forcing extra details or seasons worth of explanations into final reveals. You're not stopping to Google names from episode 2 or pausing to take in the twists, but watching lifelike feelings play out right in front of you, uninterrupted, unencumbered, and just raw and true. Her story alone is like an anticlimax compared to everything we've seen. It's tame and follows minimal build-up and offers no payoff plot-wise. So when it does jump ahead of the other judgments in terms of intensity, when she has the chance to see her mother and take her life back, that's it. That's the moment. There's nothing else between those two that can compete. It's basically like giving you a tap on the shoulder before punching you in the face. This final scene is also shocking because the last few episodes broke from the formula that Death Parade had been following the whole time with its previous cases. Looking at Shiyuki's first judgment with the old woman, it's miles apart from anything we've seen. It's a tame game, no fighting, they're relaxed and sitting, and it has Decim's mirrored literal and emotional involvement in the game and a whole host of other differences. It's completely anticlimactic, pulling on emotion mostly from that reminder that Shiyuki's time is up, rather than individual drama or conflict. This should be the happiest judgment, but we know what the outcome will be, and it hurts. And moving on, when we see her memories, this remains. Even they're not about danger or anger or hardly anything even involving someone else. There's a good lull of 2 episodes before the finale goes all in, and it creates a distinct feeling from everything else with its break from the formula that only heightens the final moments. To continue the anticlimax of the series, Oculus appears for his final time to tell us that the only thing that has changed is a rule to make sure things don't change in the future. This is also part of why I say it's a great, terrible ending. It breaks from the formula of ending in any media. Normally the love interests are supposed to break barriers to get together, or there's a final battle with the great villain, or even just an ideological battle, but we get none of that here. I mean, Death Parade has almost no long-term payoff. Shiyuki's judgment changes almost nothing, and she has to leave like everyone else. Nona's plan fails to change the system, and Decim is back to square one with no one like him to follow again. Almost. What we see is almost more heartbreaking than true nothing, and that's his soft smile. I mean, all of that work, every judgment and story and action and everything that led to every single outburst of raw feelings achieved a single small thing. That soft smile. It's so much for so little. It feels terrible that nothing was able to change after witnessing firsthand how wrong everything around him is. This is how it had to be. Anything else would have been a disservice to what came before it. It's a terrible ending, but it's perfect because it was never really about change or judgment, or maybe even the people, but the emotion. Nothing ever got in the way of the focus on feelings, not backstory or complex narrative, or even the main characters. And in the end, nothing else outshined it either, even when the only thing to show for it is a single smile. A terrible ending. The greatest terrible ending. Anyway, that's my video on Death Parade, trying to pick out what made it such an emotional experience and how this terrible ending was the best terrible ending of all time. I think it's probably a bit all over the place, but I like how it ended. I like that it's a bit hopeful, and it's probably more or less me trying to figure out how something actually made this unfeeling lump feel something at the end of a piece of animation. But I hope you could get something out of it too, just as I think I have. But anyway, rambling outros that are always terrible aside, if you want more content, consider subscribing for more in the future if you're new here, and if you are or not, consider leaving a like so I know to talk about this same topic again, or make another video similar to this. You could also leave a comment letting me know what to address in the future, what you liked about Death Parade, what you didn't like, or if you think there's something I missed as well, because I do like to know what you all have to say, because it gets more thoughts out there and helps me improve as well. Anyway, more videos on screen like the one you just watched now, and I'll just say thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Now, that's the most competent intro I've ever done. Outro. Fuck.